citing ng Constable Ita ay sumusunod. Magkakaroon dito sa Pantawon sa PCA Cotabato City, sa Barangay Pakyan, sa Dato Edison Swat, sa Barangay Tuyok, Parang, Maguindanao, Del Norte, at Timapuhi sa Barangay Kalangan ng Cotabato City. So, abangan na lang natin dasang-gatang kasama sa at ang mga iba't ibang aktibidad at programa na ipagdaraw siya ng Constable Government tulad ng Quran reading, ng Quran memorization, reading pahuka o free-iftare during Ramadan at marami pang makabuluhan ng mga programa. No? So talagang napakasagla at maging makabuluhan ng diniwang ng ngayong darating na Ramadan.
Saan ginanap yung anniversary, yung combination ng kuwan? Saan ginanap yon? Sa Pagalungan?
Yeah.
Tata, saan ang ginanap yung programa? Yeah. Yung programa ba ginanap sa saan yun?
Yeah, sa SG, sa Mid-Sayap, ginanap, ano? Sa yung ginawang opening ay sinagawa sa Mid-Sayap, North Cotabato, kahapon lamang yung po siya.
Mid-Sayap.
Particular sa bahayan ng Mid-Sayap, North Cotabato.
Okay. So, okay, mag-aantay tayo ng update ng Darul Ifta, yung sa pag-umpisa ng fasting natin. Dapat ma-news natin yan, no?
Yeah, so sa kanina sa panayon natin, pang-mufti ng Bansa Darul Ifta na bagong talaga, na si Sheikh Abdurrauf Odelani ay alam natin kung gaano ito katanyag, at tagumpalang paglilipod sa reliyon at sa Bansa Moro bilang isang mufti ng buong bansa sa Moro.
Sa BARMS.
So, iba pang manibalik.
Sa BARMS siya, no?
Yeah, sa BARMS. So, siya yung at natatanda nyo, itong si Sheikh Abdurrauf Odelani, siya yung pang-apat na mufti dito sa Bansa Moro. So, kung ating natatandaan, itong year 1970s, unang mufti ay si Mufti Sheikh Kabila Rangal, Salim. Sunod naman, pangalawa si Sheikh Omar Empatida noong 1990s. At pangatlo naman, si Sheikh Aburaira Udasan Alayarahmo, dahil ito ay pumanaw na. At ngayon nga, yung pag-apat na mufti, si Sheikh Mufti Abdurrauf Odelani, the Bansa Moro Darul Ifta Mufti sa BAN. So anyway, sa iba pang mga ulat,
Go ahead.
Second Islamic Conference, isinagawa nitong February 10, 2024. At ito ay sinagawa sa SKC Cotabato City o Sharif Abusuan Cotabato Complex Territorio. So, iba't ibang guest speaker ng Islamic Propagation na naging makabuluhan ang mga paksa nito at nagbigay ng closing remarks din si Sir Muhammad Amin Abbas and Muslim International Scholar Association of MISA Chairman at ang newly appointed ng MISA Executive Director na si Sir Hamdan A. Lafo na nagbigay rin ng pananaw hindi sa kanyang naging role sa nasabing programa. So, si Sir Muhammad Amin Abbas ay may karanasan din at may malawak na pag-unawa sa Islamic community. Kanyang binahagi ang malalim na kaalaman nito tungkol sa yun kaysa at kaunlaran. So, ang kanilang pananalita ay puno ng pag-asa at hinihikayat ang bawat isa na yakapin ng pagkakaysa at para sa kapakanan at ikagaganda ng Islamic sa ating komunidad. Ang okasyon na yan ay nagsisilbi bilang pag-alala kung gaano talaga ang conferences in fostering dialogue. Samantala sa iba pag-ulat, Centennial Foundation Anniversary ng Cotabato City University ay ito ang ano. So, ang nasabing celebration ay ito ay sa pangunan ni President Professor Sherman G. Del na Education Department. At nagkaroon din ng message of support si Mayor Muhammad Ali Cruz de la Cruz Matabalaw at kasunod din ang message of support ni Barm Senior Minister Abunawan Gon Alahak Masla Mamang. At ang Centennial Foundation Anniversary Batch 1924 hanggang 2024 na batch ang dumalo sa nasabing pagtitipon. No? So, ang naturang programa ay may temang Honoring University Centennial Miles for Inclusivity in a Diverse Culture and sa 100 years of celebration ay sinulakay ang 3 araw na celebration mula noong February 8 hanggang February 10 at mula sa batch 1924 hanggang batch 2024. No, so, kaya naman hindi nalampas ang programa nito ng ating mga tabang-samaro at ito nga ang ginanap mismo sa Cotabato State University. Ngayon, itong araw ng Lunes, February 8 hanggang February 10. At isinagawad sa oval ng PSU o Cotabato State University ang sabing paggunita ng 100 years founding anniversary ng PSU. At ang speaker naman ng Cotabato City Mayor Muhammad Ali Cruz Matabalaw ay nagbigay ng mahalagang mensahe at isa rin sa tagapagsalita ang PSU President na si Professor Sema G. Dela ng Education Department. At naging makabuluhan naman ang nasabing programa dahil ang tinanggap ng 100,000 ang lahat ng inabot ng 100 years old sa naturang anniversary. So dahil yung dalawang magkapareho ng edad ay sinati yung 100,000 pesos sa tag 50,000 pesos. No? So sa iba pang balita, matagumpay naman ang isinagawang spiritual Ramadan nitong nito lamang nakaraang araw. No? So ito ang ito ng unity is the best way to welcome the holy month of Ramadan. No? So ito, ang sabing programa ay sa pamumuno ito ni Barangay Chairman Dato Bimo Pasawiran Ayuna na isinagawa sa Dato Ayunan Elementary School para Bukana ay hindi kailangan ng Cotabato City nito lamang February 9, 2024. Ano? So naging ito na rin si Ustad Sergio Salindat at nagbigay ng teaching sa medyo sa nalalapit na Ramadan. At ayon sa panayam kay Ustad Jan Aris Gayat Masud, Dawak Committee, ayon sa kanya itong pagpapunayaan ay napakahalaga na bigyan ng pansin upang mapapanitili ang pagkakay sa at kapayapaan ng ating bangsamoro. No?
Okay. Sige.
So, yan mo ng ating ulat sa app, no? Yan mo ng ating ulat mula dito sa lungsod ng Cotabato para sa ADLSNTV News on Arms, Servisyo Publiko Tinig ng mamamayan sa Cotabato sa ring report.
Salamat, Tarhata Abdul Karim na. Okay, pakiayos ang logo, ha? Tanggalin mo lang yung pangalan mo. Sige.
Okay.
Pasyanan mo ko na walang pangalan mo. Sige. Okay, salamat. Kasi gagamitin natin. So, yan po ang kompleto balita po ni Tarhat Abdul Karim po diyan po sa Central Mindanao, no? Kasama na po ang balita galing sa BARM, balita sa Cotabato, at saka North Cotabato po mga sukido. Okay. So, culmination nata ng yung mga 63 barangay dyan po sa North Cotabato, no? Sumali po sa Bangsamoro government. Okay. So, yan po ang balita, no?
Female voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Okay, makinig tayo kay CJ Castro, no? Antonio Carpio, dating sa Supreme Court, mga retired Antonio Carpio, no? CJ. Okay, pakinggan natin ang kanyang paliwanag. Okay. Ay kasama tayo ano, no? O kasama tayo makikinig dito sa paliwanag po ni CJ Castro, no? Antonio Castro. Okay. Sige. Okay, huwag na magpapatagal. Nako. Bakit ayaw? Okay, danday lang. Hanapin natin, no? Grabe. Ayan. Okay. Bakit yun? CJ Castro. Ayan po.
Philippines today has one of the most liberal foreign investment laws in ASEAN, as well as in Asia. The Philippines, without amending the Constitution, has passed several laws to open the economy to 100% foreign ownership. The recently amended Public Service Act reclassified several businesses as public services open to 100% foreign ownership. Local banks are open to 100% foreign ownership under Republic Act 10641. Retail trade is open to 100% foreign ownership under the amended Republic Act 8762.
So bakit pa tayo mag-amend ng Constitution, mag-chat-chat pa, mag-PI pa? Okay. Ayan po mga People Initiative. Nandiyan na pala yung mga batas, no? Ang kailangan po, kaya sabi ko, hindi dahilan po ang failure natin, kailangan baguhin po ang ating Constitution, no? Nariyan na lahat eh. Okay, sa sinasabi to ni Castro, no? Hindi rason na kaya hindi tayo masenso dahil sa Constitution, mga kababayan, no? Hindi. Hindi mo kailangan na i-touch ang Constitution natin, ang freedom Constitution natin, okay, mga Bill of Rights natin, okay, yung protection sa pamilya natin, protection sa tagapamahayag, lahat na. Importante po yung Bill of Rights natin, mga kababayan, na. So bakit pa tayo magbago ng Constitution? nariyan ng pala lahat. Ayan po mga suki. So hindi rason. Okay, na kaya hindi tayo masenso dahil sa Constitution mga kababayan, no? Pero yun na nga. Okay, yung balakin, okay, manatili sa kapangyarihan mga suki, no? Yun ang totoo. So pakinggan natin ulit si Castro, no? CJ Antonio Castro. Wala. So, kaya hindi ko maniwala, okay, magbago ng konstitusyon, okay, dahilan na hindi tayo yumaman mga suki, no? Hindi yon. Okay. Maliwanag na maliwanag mga suki, no? Sige, CJ Castro.
Subject, of course, to reasonable minimum requirements on capital. And the generation of renewable energy, solar and wind, has just been opened to 100% foreign ownership under the DOE circular amending the IRR of Republic Act 1995-13. So it's not even a law. In particular, the amended Public Service Act allows 100% foreign ownership in telecommunications, air, sea, and land transportation, except PUVs, and airports. Power generation has always been open to 100% foreign ownership for the longest time. There appears to be a lack of understanding by our national leaders of the extent of foreign ownership under the law of businesses in our country. In an interview, President Marcos Jr. declared that he wants to open the economy to foreign investments, and I quote, except in critical areas such as power generation. Power generation from coal, oil, and gas plants has been open to 100% foreign ownership for the longest time. The Supreme Court has also allowed 100% foreign ownership of power generation from dams or hydropower plants. President Marcos Jr.'s own Department of Justice and Department of Energy have recently allowed, through a mere implementing guideline, 100% foreign ownership of power generation from solar and wind, which is, as natural resources are under the Constitution, owned by the state. What is the real problem of our law FDI? There are three causes. First, the high cost of power. We have the highest power rate in ASEAN and the second highest power rate in Asia, next only to Japan. But in manufacturing, energy accounts for at least 30% of your cost. And if you locate your plant here in the Philippines, you cannot compete with your competitor in Vietnam because they have low power rates. They will never come to the Philippines. So we have to address this number one problem. The second problem is our bureaucratic regulation. To put up a factory, you have to, in the Philippines, you have to get a permit from the barangay, from the mayor, from the department in charge of the business you're in, and the specialized agency that may also regulate you. In Vietnam and China, you go only to one office and you get all your permits. The third cause of the low FDI is our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is behind our neighbors. Our airports, seaports, land transportation, sea transportation. We have to address the real causes. The real cause is not the Constitution. Nobody cares. The President has been going abroad and has been saying, I have secured almost 500 billion pesos in foreign investment, and not one of those foreigners who plan to invest here required an amendment of our Constitution.
Okay. Bakit nawala?
KCC Supermarket, pinakabarato. Ang siguristang misis sa KCC Supermarket lang bumibili. Kung saan, presko ang mga bilihin. Abot kaya pa ng budget mo. Sa KCC Supermarket, kumpleto. Dahil lahat ng hinahanap mo, andito na.
The Philippines today has one of the most liberal
Ulitin natin,
investment laws in
Ulitin
ASEAN
natin.
as well as in Asia. The Philippines, without amending the Constitution, has passed several laws to open the economy to 100% foreign ownership. The recently amended Public Service Act reclassified several businesses as public services open to 100% foreign ownership. Local banks are open to 100% foreign ownership under Republic Act 10641. Retail trade is open to 100% foreign ownership under the amended Republic Act 8762, subject, of course, to reasonable minimum requirements on capital. And the generation of renewable energy, solar and wind, has just been opened to 100% foreign ownership under the DOE circular amending the IRR of Republic Act 1995-13. So it's not even a law. In particular, the amended Public Service Act allows 100% foreign ownership in telecommunications, air, sea, and land transportation, except PUVs, and airports. Power generation has always been open to 100% foreign ownership for the longest time. There appears to be a lack of understanding by our national leaders of the extent of foreign ownership under the law of businesses in our country. In an interview, President Marcos Jr. declared that he wants to open the economy to foreign investments, and I quote, except in critical areas such as power generation. Power generation from coal, oil, and gas plants has been open to 100% foreign ownership for the longest time. The Supreme Court has also allowed 100% foreign ownership of power generation from dams or hydropower plants. President Marcos Jr.'s own Department of Justice and Department of Energy have recently allowed, through a mere implementing guideline, 100% foreign ownership of power generation from solar and wind, which as natural resources are under the Constitution owned by the state. What is the real problem of our law FDI? There are three causes. First, the high cost of power. We have the highest power rate in ASEAN and the second highest power rate in Asia, next only to Japan. But in manufacturing, energy accounts for at least 30% of your cost. And if you locate your plant here in the Philippines, you cannot compete with your competitor in Vietnam because they have low power rates. They will never come to the Philippines. So we have to address this number one problem. The second problem is our bureaucratic regulation. To put up a factory, you have to, in the Philippines, you have to get a permit from the barangay, from the mayor, from the department in charge of the business you're in, and the specialized agency that may also regulate you. In Vietnam and China, you go only to one office and you get all your permits. The third cause of the low FDI is our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is behind our neighbors. Our airports, seaports, land transportation, sea transportation. We have to address the real causes. The real cause is not the Constitution. Nobody cares. The President has been going abroad and has been saying, I have secured almost 500 billion pesos in foreign investment, and not one of those foreigners who plan to invest here required an amendment of our Constitution.
Okay, totoo po yun, no? Totoo po yun. Wala po maghahingi ng kailangan baguhin ang Constitution, no? Katulad binasa ko kanina, 14 billion mahigit yun, no? Saan na bang record ko yun? 14 billion, hanapin ko, no? Okay. Hindi naghanap yun ng Constitution, no? Ayan. Saan na ba yung sinulat ko kanina? Okay. Hanapin ko, no? Okay. O, ito, o. Ayan. 14 billion 14.2 billion US dollar, no? Ang investment pledges, okay, from President Bongbong Marcos Jr. foreign visit, actualized sa report ng DTI, no? Nakuha din pala ni Castro yon. 15 billion ng mga pledges po. Hindi na kailangan yun ng Constitution. Basta gusto lang nila Okay, negosyo dito sa atin, no? Okay, kaya nga, okay, Speaker Mordes, okay, hindi ako maniwala po na yun ang problema ng bansa natin, no? Okay, kaya itigil na yan. Speaker, okay, Speaker Romualdez, Martin Romualdez, at saka itong si pinagbintangan po ng itong si First Lady Attorney Lisa Araneta Marcos, no? Yung tandem nila, yan ang pinagbintangan ngayon eh. Okay. So itigil yan. Hindi dahilan po ang constitution natin. Okay, katulad paliwanag po ni CJ Castro, mga kabayan, Antonio Castro, no? Isang beses na lang. Para talagang makuha nyo ng husto po ang paliwanag po ni CJ Castro, no? Ayan.
The Philippines today has one of the most liberal foreign investment laws in ASEAN, as well as in Asia. The Philippines, without amending the Constitution, has passed several laws to open the economy to 100% foreign ownership.
Can you imagine that?
The amended Public Service Act reclassified several businesses as public services open to 100% foreign ownership. Local banks are open to 100% foreign ownership under Republic Act 10641. Retail trade is open to 100% foreign ownership under the amended Republic Act 8762, subject, of course, to reasonable minimum requirements on capital. And the generation of renewable energy, solar and wind, has just been opened to 100% foreign ownership under the DOE circular amending the IRR of Republic Act 1995-13. So it's not even a law. In particular, the amended Public Service Act allows 100% foreign ownership in telecommunications, air, sea, and land transportation, except PUVs, and airports. Power generation has always been open to 100% foreign ownership for the longest time. There appears to be a lack of understanding by our national leaders of the extent of foreign ownership under the law of businesses in our country. In an interview, President Marcos Jr. declared that he wants to open the economy to foreign investments, and I quote, except in critical areas such as power generation. Power generation from coal, oil, and gas plants has been open to 100% foreign ownership for the longest time. The Supreme Court has also allowed 100% foreign ownership of power generation from dams or hydropower plants. President Marcos Jr.'s own Department of Justice and Department of Energy have recently allowed, through a mere implementing guideline, 100% foreign ownership of power generation from solar and wind, which is, as natural resources are under the Constitution, owned by the state. What is the real problem of our law on FDI? There are three causes. First, the high cost of power. We have the highest power rate in ASEAN and the second highest power rate in Asia, next only to Japan. But in manufacturing, energy accounts for at least 30% of your cost. And if you locate your plant here in the Philippines, you cannot compete with your competitor in Vietnam because they have low power rates. They will never come to the Philippines. So we have to address this number one problem. The second problem is our bureaucratic regulation. To put up a factory, you have to, in the Philippines, you have to get a permit from the barangay, from the mayor, from the department in charge of the business you're in, and the specialized agency that may also regulate you. In Vietnam and China, you go only to one office and you get all your permits. The third cause of the low FDI is our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is behind our neighbors. Our airports, seaports, land transportation, sea transportation. We have to address the real causes. The real cause is not the Constitution. Nobody cares. The President has been going abroad and has been saying, I have secured almost 500 billion pesos in foreign investment, and not one of those foreigners who plan to invest here required an amendment of our Constitution.
So, yan po ang maliwanag, no? Okay, address natin kay Presidente, Republika ng Pilipinas, si Marcos Jr., at saka Speaker of the House, Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, at saka itong si Attorney Lisa Araneta Marcos, no? Okay, kung sila ang magpakana ng PI na yan. Okay, so sundin mo yung advice po ni, okay, kahit sa kabilang panig, sundin lang ang advice po ni Antonio Carpio, mga suki, no? Si former CJ Antonio Carpio. Ayos na. Okay. Yun lang ang sa loob po ng ilang taon pa. Mahigit na 4 na taon po, no? So, yan lang sundin. And then, after 2028, exit na kayo. Wala na. Iba naman ng pinuno, mga suki, no? Yan lang atupagin, ayusin. Itong nalalabing katungkulan nila sa palasyo at saka sa House of Representatives at saka dyan po sa Senado, mga suki, no? So, ulit-ulitin po yung advice ni CJ Castro, no? Antonio Castro. Okay, well, hindi pala problema. Yung mga foreign ownership, 100%, 200%, yan po ang problema natin, no? Pero ang appeal ko sa gabi ito, okay, itong permit ko, corporation, mga suki, no? Ito. Okay, ayan. O, para makita, no? Okay, galing po sa Security Exchange Commission, no? Para makakuha ko partner, okay, mag-invest po dito sa akin, okay, sa aking itong platform para lumaki, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? Okay, para makover ko ang buong Pilipinas at saka buong daigdig. Itong dapat ayusin kasi kami sa news, hindi kami makakuha po ng mga foreign partner, no? Ayan. Kung problema, pag kumuha tayo foreign partner, tayo mag-control ng news naman dito sa Pilipinas. Okay, investment lang ang kunin natin sa kanila, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? So, yan. Yan ang hingiin natin po sa kay Speaker Martin Romualdez, okay, Ferdinand Romualdez at saka Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos at saka si Attorney, okay, Lisa Araneta Marcos, mga suki. Yon ang ayusin. Okay, para hindi ako matulad ng Rappler nung panahon po ni Tatay Digong, no? Sa Umidyar. So, meron akong permit, meron akong kompleto, and then kailangan ko makompleto ang aking okay, headquarters sa news, mga suki, no? Okay, makakompleto ko. So, anong kailangan ko? Kailangan may partner, kailangan may capital ako. Okay, para mapalaki po ang aking studio. Para mapunuan ko po ang buong Pilipinas po ng studio, mga suki, mga kababayan, no? So, anong kailangan ko? Capital po, mga suki, no? Punuin ko ng itong Pilipinas po ng studio po, mga kababayan, no? Kung pagbigyan ako. So, hindi tayo maka-expand dahil limited lang po ang capital natin, no? Ayan. So, yon po ang kailangan ko. Okay, amen. Yung tungkol po sa media, okay, sa itong batas sa media, mga kababayan, no? Kasi limited lang. Okay, hindi pwede po mag-accept ng mga foreign investor sa media, no? Okay, ayaw ko matulad po ng Rappler. Okay, na halos pangyak-ngyak po si sino bang pangalan na yan? Okay, Maria Ressa, mga kababayan, no? Okay, nung panahon ni Tatay Digong. Okay, yon ang kailangan ko. Kung maamen po ni itong si Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, mga kababayan, no? At saka itong si Senate President Mick Subiri. Para makakuha kami ng pondo po sa ibang bansa. Okay, maka-news kami ng mabuti. Ayan po, mga suki, no? Yan ang hamon natin sa kanila. Okay, ito po. Ah. Ayan po mga suki, no? Anong oras
Female
na?
voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Ayan. Di ba ayos? Kung iayos nila po ang mamen para sa sa media entity, di maka-expand tayo. Okay? Para malakas ang news natin. Ayan po. Okay, mag-people initiative kalokohan mga suki, no? Okay. Mag-people initiative and then magbigay ng pera sa tao mga suki, no? Ay, nako. Imbes na itulong nyo sa mga negosyante, ang pera tinatapon niya yan sa people initiative yan, maigi pa. Ayan. Ang mga negosyante po naghingalo na. Maghanap ng kapital mga suki, no? Ayan. O may business ka nga. Mahina naman ang purchasing power dahil walang perang tao mga suki, no? Walang trabaho. Okay. Sige. Kaya nga ako lagi nagaling. Okay, pakinggan natin po ang South African Minister, no? Nagpasalamat po. Okay, pakinggan natin kung bakit siya magpasalamat mga suki, no? Ayan. Babae po mga suki, no? Okay. African skin. African color mga kababayan. Pero magaling magsalita mga suki, no? Pakinggan natin ito. Okay. Bakit siya magpasalamat?
Allow me to formally begin then by thanking the leadership of the mosque for inviting me to be here. Thank you very much, Imam. And also the executive committee for allowing me to be here. As I stand here, I speak for all women in the Ummah, because women must have a voice.
Minister.
I wish to thank everyone for inviting me to speak to you this evening about this important case that South Africa has taken to the International Court of Justice. But before I make my remarks, because everyone is here and the media is here, let me make it clear, I have no ambition to be a president. I'm a public servant, and all I want to do is serve the people. So even though I'm a little older now, If you will have me, I will always be there, inshallah, to serve the people. It is indeed an honor for me to be here to brief you on the work that our government of South Africa has been doing in solidarity with the people of Gaza and all of Palestine. Before I get into the substance of my address, I want to express my gratitude and appreciation for the support that the communities of Cape Town in particular,
Muslim sa Muslima ng South Africa.
and indeed almost all humanity have shown for the positions that we have taken in order to attempt to save the lives of children, men and women in Palestine, and in particular in Gaza. I need to stress that the protests and mass mobilization of the people of Cape Town and other parts of South Africa have served as an inspiration to me, my Department of International Relations, as well as our government. The beautiful and inspirational murals on walls in Boka, Salt River, Bondiyevo, and townships across the country symbolize the solidarity of most South Africans with the people of Palestine. Much of this solidarity stems from the fact that we feel and remember our pain when we were subjected to the violence associated with apartheid and settler colonialism. As Nelson Mandela expressed, as was said by Dr. Abdullah, our history behoves us not to turn a blind eye to the oppression of others. And our freedom as South Africans is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. Given that this mosque, Al-Quds, is named after one of the Qiblas, I would like to frame our solidarity with the people of Palestine and indeed our overall foreign policy with references to the approaches of the Abrahamic religions to justice, equality, and fairness. We are taught that the Hadith plays an important role in helping us understand the values that underpin Islamic practice. The following Hadith may be relevant for our discussion today. Anyone who walks with a wrongdoer in order to strengthen him, knowing that all the while he is a wrongdoer, has departed from Islam. And another hadith, the Prophet, may peace be upon him, said, assist your brother and sister Muslim, whether he or she be an oppressor or the oppressed. When asked, but how shall we assist the oppressor? The Prophet, may peace be upon him, said, assisting an oppressor is by forbidding and withholding that person from oppression. These are just two hadiths that suggest that Muslims cannot and should not collaborate with those who oppress others. And more importantly, that we should refrain from supporting oppressors, as this only strengthens them. These hadiths very clearly also enjoin us to support the oppressed in their struggles and engage in activities that will hold the oppressors accountable for their actions. It is thus an injunction against siding with the oppressed and also siding with the oppressor, and also to ensure that the oppressor cannot act with impunity. The same values, and it's important for me to say this, that I have referred to of the promotion of fairness, justice, and solidarity with the oppressed are to be found in Judaism and Christianity. The South African Jews for a Free Palestine, the SAJFP, recently circulated a statement distancing themselves from the statements of the Chief Rabbi of South Africa. South African Jews for a Free Palestine described the statements that the Chief Rabbi made when he criticized the actions of the South African government in holding Israel to account as racist and supportive of the Israeli oppression of Palestinians. South African Jews for Palestine, for a Free Palestine, suggested that Zionism and its concomitant oppression of the Palestinians is in conflict with some of the more important values of Judaism. They stated that the progressive Jewish tradition draws on liberatory values. This includes the concept of tzedakah, which refers to the values of justice and fairness. The implication of this is that doing what is right and just is an ethical obligation in Judaism. South African Jews for a Free Palestine statement included the following as part of their response to the Chief Rabbi and others who have been supporting the actions of the Israeli government. They indicated to be Jewish is therefore intrinsically connected to keeping our eyes open to injustice. That is our spiritual and historical duty, reiterated through the experiences of our ancestors and our teachings. Liberation theology is a major component of progressive Christian practice and has always been associated with aligning with the aspirations of oppressed peoples. Some who don't understand Islam will wonder why I quote other great religions. But we as Muslims, we respect all of the book, and it's important that we all understand this. We have seen how Christian liberation theology is active in struggles against poverty, inequality, racism, and colonialism. This point was brought home very powerfully when, in the presence of South African clergy and activists in a church in Bethlehem on Christmas Eve last year, Reverend Munta Isaac said the following: Jesus, may peace be upon him, was born among the occupied and marginalized. He is in solidarity with us in Palestine, in our pain and brokenness. Reverend Munta went on to criticize the complicity of the Western world and others in the unfolding genocide in Gaza. He said, "Let it be clear, silence is complicity. An empty calls for peace without a ceasefire and an end to occupation, and the shallow words of empathy without direct action are all under the banner of complicity." The progressive and liberatory nature of the three Abrahamic religions has found pride of place in the values and principles of the South African Constitution, as these constitutional values were shaped by the values born out of our struggle against colonialism and apartheid. These values have shaped much of our foreign policy, and they call on us to be on the side of the oppressed always. Siding with the oppressed, especially the Palestinians, has been criticized by some here in South Africa as being reckless and jeopardizing our economic interests. We say that standing on the side of justice, ending impunity, and working to stop mass
Overtime tayo, huwag tayo muna
in a
matulog, no?
genocide is very much part of our national interests. Those advocating for economic reprisals against South Africa for not being complicit with genocide are, as Reverend Mutha pointed out, perversely, actively complicit in the genocide in Gaza. These are the values and principles that inform South Africa's decision to firstly charge the leaders of Israel with individual criminal liability for the atrocities in Palestine through petitioning the International Criminal Court. We followed that first step up by taking the State of Israel to The Hague for breaches of their responsibilities under the Genocide Convention. In the context of complicity by many of the Western powers, South Africa acted to end the killing of Palestinians, particularly of children, women, and men. As of the 2nd of February, we know 27,019 Palestinians have been killed. Over 11,000 of these are children. 7,500 are women, and 1,049 are elderly Palestinian citizens. These numbers do not include those who are missing and who are under the rubble. Over 65,000 people have been injured, and close to 1.9 million are displaced. The humanitarian situation is so dire that it is feared that without an immediate ceasefire, which allows humanitarian aid to flow unhindered into Gaza, more people may likely die from starvation and disease than from the actual military assaults. We took the actions that we did at the ICC and the ICJ in an attempt to save lives, for justice, peace, and for an end to violent occupation. Our actions are in line with the most fundamental values of Islam and the religions I cited earlier, and of course, the fundamental values of South Africa's constitution. Allow me to conclude with a brief update on the processes at the International Court of Justice. On 26 January, the International Court of Justice delivered its order on South Africa's request for the indication of provisional measures in our case to hold Israel accountable for genocidal acts in Gaza under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The provisional orders make it clear that Israel must ensure that it acts to prevent the commission of all acts under Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. This is to prevent and stop A, the killing of members of the group, that is Palestinian people in this case, B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to Palestinian people, and C, deliberately inflicting on Palestinian people conditions calculated to cause physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births among Palestinian people. The order is very important in our view and historic, given the acts that the Israeli army have been inflicting on the Palestinian people. The order that follows on from the injunction to adhere to the provisions of Article 2 of the Genocide Convention is extremely important. It states the following: the state of Israel shall ensure with immediate effect that its military does not commit any acts described in point 1. Point 1 was, of course, the order relating to Israel having to stop the killing and other genocidal acts under Article 2 of the Convention. These two orders, if you read them together, can only mean that the judges required that Israel cease its military attacks, which were destroying people and the means necessary for them to live. It is essentially a de facto order for a ceasefire. Many have been quibbling that the court did not use ceasefire, the word, but all the orders that they gave, all the injunctions, can only be acted upon if there is a ceasefire. So clearly, a ceasefire is a corollary to the orders. And it is not Naledi Pandor who is saying this. Most honest and credible international lawyers have stressed this point. Clearly, the judges would not have made an order suggesting that you can kill people as long as you don't do it with an intention to genocide. Clearly, they weren't saying that. This is especially important given that in the judgment, the judges indicated in a lot of detail the instances of statements of genocidal intent made by Israeli leaders. In fact, they included genocidal statements made by Israeli leaders that were not even part of the application of South Africa. We were astounded at the level of research the judges had gone into in order to arrive at their decision. Another important element of the judgment was the issue of Israel's purported right to self-defense. The judgment only noted once that Israel used the notion of self-defense to justify their actions in Gaza. The court only noted this approach by Israel, but did not entertain it any further. They did not need to, as the court is well aware that the ICJ had confirmed in the Wall case of 2004 that an occupying power cannot rely on the right to self-defense as stated in Article 51 of the UN Charter. If you engage in a conflict with people that you are occupying, you are in breach of the UN Charter. The people of Gaza are still under a belligerent occupation. And whenever we speak of Palestine, don't speak of it as an ordinary conflict. This is about occupation. The people of Palestine are occupied. It's not two equal free states fighting each other. It is an occupier fighting those they have occupied and essentially slaughtering them. This is what is happening, and we need to say so. Despite its claims, these orders are binding upon Israel. It has to immediately implement these provisional measures to prevent a further increase of its human rights violations. In fact, all states now have a legal obligation to ensure respect for the provisional measures, as well as ensure that they are not complicit in the genocide. Essentially, if the case proceeds as we anticipate, and it is found that Israel committed genocide, all those who were complicit are as guilty as Israel. There are many who are seeking to undermine these orders. For example, they attempt to redefine it so that the killings continue. Some Western governments immediately said We hear the judgment, but they didn't order a ceasefire. We can see this only as aiding and abetting. This order for us is a win for international law and for the Genocide Convention, which embodies the solemn pledge to prevent the crime of genocide and hold those responsible to account. It is truly tragic that this convention, which was drafted following the Holocaust against Jewish people in Europe, that it is the very people who then moved to Palestine who are offending this convention. It's tragic. Despite its attempts to block the ICJ from making this order, and in its failed attempt to spin the judgment itself as a victory for them, Israel stands facing the international community and peoples of the world, having failed to deflect attention from its crimes or justify its unfolding genocide. It is now naked to the world for the first time. For the first time in 75 years, Israel is being held accountable by an institution and by the global community. We have now, as South Africa, broken a dangerous culture of impunity that has characterized the illegal occupation of Palestine, the oppression of apartheid in Palestine, and its now unfolding genocide. For the first time, we have opened up for the world to see. We, South Africa. So before I totally break the podium, allow me to stop and thank you once more for the opportunity to address you today in this wonderful, blessed mosque. I trust that you will all continue to be guided by Islamic values that place a premium of justice, fairness, and solidarity with the oppressed. I thank you as the South African Muslim Ummah for not forgetting that although we have won our freedom from the oppression of apartheid, it is our duty to seek that freedom for all humanity, for all who are oppressed. This is our duty and we must carry it out. So I don't take the work, the campaign, the protests, I don't take them lightly. What they mean to me is an appreciation of something absolutely wonderful. We know through you that we, as the people of South Africa, while we waged a mighty struggle against apartheid, our leaders went from country to country across the world and asked for support. And the international community joined in developing a concept some of us forget called international solidarity. That is all that is making us stand up today. That being free, enjoying human rights, having a constitution, having sovereign right to your land, does not mean you enjoy it purely for yourself. Having been joined in international solidarity, your task today is to join the world in fighting for the people of Palestine until they are free. This is what we must do. I see today that one of my colleague ministers has sent me a recent statement that Israel has called us the legal arm of Hamas. The government of South Africa is the legal arm of Hamas. You know that they've been saying that I take my orders from Iran and that I'm an ISIS supporter. I don't even know what ISIS stands for. But this is some of the fake news and insults that will circulate. They even go to my family and my husband, my children, you know. But it's fine. We will strive on. As long as the people of Palestine know we as South Africa are with them, we will strive on. We won't tire. And what I hope we can try and do together, we have sent some aid from our department and government. We have another second package that is sitting somewhere near the Rafah border, which we would like to get across. But now, the lies have grown even bigger. They're now accusing UN workers of having played a role in the October 7 attack by Hamas. And so they have stopped funding to the UN agency that was supporting people who need aid. So I've called on my colleagues of the South, East Asia, Latin America, progressive African countries. Let's put our heads together and let's fund that agency and let's make sure that aid gets there. So let us not idly sit by and watch events. It's not our culture. Let us be active. Let us try and make a difference. Let's have petition after petition after petition. I've been talking to some of our sisters and brothers, and I say there are 5 or so countries that are providing arms to Israel, that provide the real dedicated support. Let's have 10 people every day outside their embassy. Stop the genocide. That's all. Every day. And because we are so connected, let us talk to our brothers and sisters throughout the world, and all of us do that. It will make a mark, because the people of Palestine must not be forgotten. I thank you for all you have done. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, isang minister ito sa South Africa, no? Isang Muslim minister, babae. Di walang nakalagay ang pangalan eh. Ayan. So yan po ay matapang. Okay, brave na statement po isang Africana, no? Isang African minister sa kanilang bansa, mga suki, no? Ganon ng katapang dapat ng mga leader natin, mga suki, no? Pag may mga hindi mabuti, hindi kaya-aya, ganon po katapang dapat bitawan nila, no? So mga African people, itong mga, lalo na yung mga biktima ng apartheid, parehas din tayo po mga kababayan, no? Halos parehas din karanasan natin sa kanila. Okay, yung campaign ng apartheid ng mahabang panahon po dyan sa South Africa, no? Kaya nga hindi nila makilumutan po ang karanasan nila sa apartheid, mga suki, no? Okay. So, ayan. Okay, ang makuha ko doon sa hadis binasa niya, okay, sabi, ang nakuha ko lang, no? Do not associate yourself to the oppressor, no? Yun pong advice ng hadis binasa po ng African na yun, mga suki, no? Isang minister. Huwag kang maki-associate, okay, sa mga oppressor, mga suki, no? Okay, yan po ang advice, okay, ng propeta Muhammad, peace be upon him. Hindi tayo pwede maki-associate. Okay, partial po hadis ay binasa niya, mga suki, no? Ayan. Huwag. Pag mga oppressor na lalayo ka ng mga suki, no? Kasi hindi na po pwede. Okay, hanggang dito ang programa natin, overtime ng mahaba, no? Ayan, ito na. So, nakuha natin, no? Huwag tayo maki-associate, okay, sa mga pressure, mga suki, okay, kahit ano pa sila. Ayan. Hadis po yun, no? Okay. So, dito po sa programa ng Consolidated News sa gabing ito. Araw na gabi ng Lunes. Okay. Paalam na tayo, no? Okay, dito sa platform natin, ADLSNTV News Online. Okay. Channel. Okay, sa programa po Halo-Halo Special, Opinion, Balita at iba pa. Kasama po Serbisyo Publiko Tinig ng Mamamayan at saka ugnayan po sa sumbungan ng mamamayan, mga suki, no? Ayan. Okay. So, magpaalam tayo. Wala tayong masamang tinapay dito sa balita natin. Okay, paliwanag po ni CJ Castro. Okay, maliwanag po sa constitution natin, no? Halos lahat pala yung mga economic provision po ay halos kompleto na po, mga kababayan, no? So, hindi po, kaya nga pobre tayo dahil po sa constitution, mga kababayan, no? Lahat ng mag-invest ng mahigit 14.2 billion US dollar dito, wala po. Hindi po binanggit sa kanilang pagnegosyo ang constitution, mga suki, no? Wala. Okay. Wala kang marinig na reklamo nila, mga. At saka hindi sila makialam po sa bansa natin, mga suki, no? Okay. So, iyan ang balita. Okay, magpaalam tayo. Gabi ito, this has been, wala tayong masamang tinapay. This has been Abs Damahan lamang po sa gabi ito. No? So, Tarhat Abdul Karim, okay, salamat sa iyong report, mga suki. Kahit pa isa-isa, pero mahaba naman, no? Kahit paminsan-minsan. Ayan. Pasado ng alas 10, no? Late kasi ako. Ayan.
Female voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Na-late ang programa ko, no? Hmm.